everybody. Not sure who all is on Zoom. If I know everybody, there's a few people that I do know and a couple of people who I haven't met yet. So quick introduction of Greg and me. So I'm June Connell. I've been with Keller Williams since July of 2017. And I had a couple of good, I would call them sort of high-end listings over the years. But this year I made a specific goal to really focus on luxury 700 and above. And I was hoping for maybe a handful of sales. Well, I'm closing the year with 9 sales that are right around that 700 and above mark. And the highest I got was 960. So my goal in 2022 is to hit that million and above mark. So it's been a good year. I'm on the luxury committee with Greg and Linda Caruso, who is our, Greg and Linda are the co-chairs of the committee. And we'll just show you quick who else is on the team. Our committee here. I don't know why that isn't. There you go. Slideshow. There we go. Okay. And so that's just quick introduction to me. I've only been in the business since 2016, and but I had to close in the year on a really positive note with luxury as my focus. So Greg.
Greg Schreiber, the Grant Homes Group and Coast to Coast Realty. I've been with KW since February of 2016. My background, I came up from Miami, worked the luxury market down in that area on the beaches, downtown, kind of cut my teeth there. Have represented athletes, car dealers, boat dealers from Odessa, Brooksville, down to Madeira Beach, got into a bunch of development. Really looking to jumpstart this with June, Linda, and the rest of our folks here on the luxury team, and to just keep it moving.
So Greg and I are, I wouldn't say opposite ends of the spectrum. Like I'm maybe a little bit in the spectrum for luxury, but Greg has certainly done a lot more. So we both bring some value to the table from each of our different perspectives. So thanks for joining us today. So really just quickly, the goal of our luxury committee is to really provide a resource for agents in the office who are looking to either expand a business that already includes luxury, or to help agents who are looking to get into that luxury market to figure out how to do that and the best ways to do that. So we have created a series of 6 classes, and this is class number 3. And so if you've missed the first couple, I'm going to give you the URL in a couple of minutes of where you can find those videos for our first 2 classes. So, okay. So where we go from here, let's talk about, hang on, I'm going to be your, there we go. So I think I actually have to start the slideshow. I haven't done this in a while. Here we go, from current slide. Here we go. So there are basically 3 things that we're going to focus on today. The first is how to price a luxury listing. The second is a little bit different than pricing listings where you have subdivision. So it's really sort of non-subdivision luxury versus subdivision non-luxury.
Kind of the box.
Yeah.
Your cookie cutter.
A little bit out of the box, exactly. So we talk about pricing. We're then going to take a look at the location. Where generally do we see 700 plus listings here in Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough counties? And then the third, we're going to talk about loans, and Brian P. Forrester from Van Dyke Mortgage is going to come in and talk about jumbo loans. So Greg is going to start with our pricing, I think. Is that what we said, Greg, or is that me?
Let's see.
Is it me? I'm going to talk about pricing.
Starting on one side, then
I don't know what just happened here, Kevin. How do I advance the PowerPoint? I usually just hit the space bar and that.
Yeah. Not when
I'm in Zoom.
Yeah. So yeah.
I don't know. See? Okay.
He's going to have to be here.
I think I'm going to have to stay the whole time because it's been a while since I've done a Zoom with a PowerPoint, and there's just a lot going on that side. So Greg, why don't we start just kind of verbally talking about what our next slide is going to be, which is sort of, subdivision, kind of cookie cutter. Even if they're 700 and above, a lot of those are still in subdivisions.
They are.
Right.
And what we want to do is we want to give you guys the resources today. Give big shout out to Jake Yancarelli and Michael Post. Michael was on our team as well. They've taken Gary's Mastermind a step further as far as pricing goes. Now we're going up to over $5 million, I believe. Yes, we're going 5 million and above. So you have it's all broken down there. And really what you want to do is you really want to take that mastermind monthly and really see how Jake and Mike break out their numbers. But this is really something that we use daily. And
all right, we're going to get back to that in just a second. So I just want to share quickly, and I don't want to go back over this because there's a great video for it. Just very quickly, how you earn into the Keller Williams luxury division. Number one, sell at least 2 properties within a 2-year period that are valued at 700 or above. They can be listings or on the buy side. Number 2, complete the training through the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing and earn their certified LHMS designation. Okay. And then the 3rd thing is then you sign up for the Keller Williams Luxury International with Jessica Oakley here in our market center. And you can see all of those trainings right here on YouTube. This is the URL for it. If you just Google or just do a search for Ubaldini Group in YouTube, this will come up and you'll be able to find all of those previous videos. Okay, so most of you, those of you who've been in the business for a little while and you've done CMAs, you know that when you're looking for how to price a property that's in kind of cookie cutter subdivision, we generally go, 20% more or less of the square footage. This is how an appraiser is going to do it, right? They're going to get 20% more or less of the square footage, quarter mile, maybe half a mile away if they're bigger properties, and maybe there's just not enough inventory to choose from to get good comps. Generally within 10 to 15 years of the subject property, usually within 1 bedroom and bathroom of your subject property, and typically in this market in the last 90 days. Sometimes it can go up as much as 6 months, but right now it's really, nobody's going back much more than 90 days. But when you have a luxury property and it's not a subdivision, you've got this, 5 bedroom, 6 bathroom house on an acre with a tennis court and a pool and a basketball court. How do you price that? So Greg, I'm going to let you kind of speak to that because you add some more elements and you broaden your parameters.
Definitely. Obviously, on the broader range, there's more square footage. There's just more. And usually there is more of this. So what we normally do is we really lean on the seller get very granular about the specific details of the home, from finishings, appliances, countertops, flooring, who built the home, they're reputable, all that stuff. And we really have a conversation. I mean, this is probably more of a 2-hour conversation to sit down and have every little piece and every little nook and cranny taken care of. Because what's going to happen is not only is it going to determine how you price the home, but it's going to come in when you get to the appraisal. And at this price point, get ready for 2 appraisals, maybe 3 appraisals. Because sometimes you're going to be, you might have to go 2 years out. You may have to go 5 miles out to find a comp. That's going to be.
Can you all mute yourselves, please? Somebody's talking. And I don't know how to mute from here.
No. Okay.
Oh, maybe it's
So basically it's a lot more detail, and that starts with the relationship with you and the seller. And you've got to get all this stuff up front because that's ultimately obviously going to help you with pricing. And then when it comes to the appraisal is going to be where you really earn your money. It's like I said, 1, 2, maybe 3 appraisals, maybe going 2 to 3 years back, 5 to 10 miles out. Who knows? But there's a lot more flexibility when it comes to that.
So does anybody have any questions about this part right at the moment? Any questions so far about pricing? What kinds of things you look for in pricing a higher end home? No questions? Okay.
Well, so how do you determine value? Like if it's oceanfront, waterfront, lakefront, how does that play into?
I would say, okay, that's going with the comps. And just to kind of go a little bit, condos are also a little bit different because condos, not only, they're easier in the sense that the square footage, okay, this one's 1,600 square feet, that one's 1,600, but where it comes into is on floors.
Right.
So you're going up higher.
What the view is, what floor you're on.
What view it is.
Okay, I got a question about that. So with a condo, is it more or less valuable to be higher or lower when you're in maybe, let's say, 7 or 8 stories?
It's going to be there's 2 there's two ways to look at that. On the lower floors, you're dealing with sound, with noise, lack of light, and probably views, right? But then as you go higher, you're obviously, your views are going to get better. And the idea is, if you want to, it's probably, if you're dealing with a $500,000 home, for example, it's probably going to be about a $5,000 to $10,000 push going up floor to floor. There is, so to answer your question, Donna, you've really got to get, sometimes you might have to go further out. If you're on a certain lake, if you're on a certain lake in Odessa, for example, where some lakes are obviously better than others, you can't compare, say, Lake Alice to, another inferior lake. So you really got to go, that's where you may have to go back further on your comps. Okay.
Is it helpful to go ahead and have an appraisal before you price the house?
I'm not really a fan of that, to be honest with you, because I think that's where we that's our job as well. So I mean, I've heard that before, and I don't know.
I mean, if it's $1 million house,
I feel that's our job, and we're going to set that price of what it's going to sell for. To have an appraiser come in, I'm not a fan personally.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask the same question. I only had one listing so far in my career that was over $1 million. It was 1.3, and there was a 50-50 chance that she was going to take it off the market, which she ultimately did. But I knew that going in. I just was excited to have that kind of a listing and go through the process. I saw it for me as a learning opportunity and a great way to establish a relationship with the homeowner. And she had an appraisal done because she was thinking about refinancing. And that appraiser looked at all of Pinellas County. He went through the whole county because her property was so unique and so different and had features that were really difficult to find anywhere else. So that's probably kind of a unique situation. He didn't look at waterfront, but so it's kind of hard to predict what an appraiser is going to look at, which is the same in any property. We can price it at one thing, and then the buyer's appraiser comes in with something totally different.
Did you price it according to that appraisal?
We did.
Or you did look at that appraisal price?
We did.
When you set the listing price?
Yep, we used that, and she had 2 offers that were less than that, and she said no because that was the number she had.
She had in her head. Yeah.
And,
I mean, it could. I would say also too. Again, why we sort of put this group together is if you ever do come across that, or anyone does come across that, call one of us, somebody, because we always look at it if there's, hey, am I seeing this right? More eyes on it or better, and especially when you have folks that have been there before and sort of are quote unquote experts.
So Greg mentioned a few minutes ago, he started talking about the numbers, the market numbers that, let me see if I can pull this up, hang on. And I want to pull up what he was referring to. So this, this is not coming up. Why is this not showing? Kevin, can you guys can't see my numbers now, can you? Share. Share. I don't know why it's not sharing.
Yeah, I see the numbers.
Oh,
now I see you.
Oh, okay. Because I'm not seeing it on there. So that was, all right, give me 1 second, you guys, because these are really good numbers. And Greg, you want to just share a little bit about this monthly market?
Yeah,
it's not coming up here.
Definitely, this is something that everyone should be engaged with as far as Gary's Mastermind and the way Jake Corelli breaks out his numbers. And they've expanded instead of
I see the numbers.
Going from.
Here, why don't you just take a look?
I got it. Okay. Basically going from, taking it all the way up to the $5 million range and over. Okay, so as far as luxury goes, this is great. And again, to see this every month, to break it down, to kind of learn, get to see what price points, what homes are selling for, where, how many, but then also
shows days on market.
It shows days on market. Yeah, this is sort of like the overview of Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco, just like the older stuff, the under $700,000 price point. But then also when we get into sort of the stats page, and when we bring it up, we can see it. I pulled, just for example,
I don't know what else to do to try to get it on this screen, Greg, I'm sorry.
No, I
But
can
Karen,
talk
you're
about it.
telling me that you can see it. Can you guys on Zoom see the stats that I'm showing you? Just shake your head, yes. Yes, you can? Okay, all right, so they can see the stats.
If you can, okay,
Yeah, so where do you want me to go?
if you can page down,
Okay,
keep paging,
okay.
you can go down to this sheet.
Oh, you want that one?
Yeah, if you
Okay,
go to this.
that's that
Because
one.
that's, yeah, there we go. This is interesting because this is just a snapshot of all of the luxury homes that sold year over year in Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco. And what jumped out to me was if you go down to the solds and you look at the average, if you look at the average, look at the SP to LP ratio on 99%.
So this means that those homes sold for 99% of their list price.
Of their list price,
in
correct.
In a cumulative days on market on average of 52 days.
Yeah, so why I bring that up is a lot of folks like, well, you know, houses stay on the market longer. Not necessarily true. I mean, you still have to price it correctly. You know, you still have to price it correctly as your buyer pool is a little bit smaller. But then again, when you bring this up, you don't want to be, one thing we look at is days on market, deleverage your value proposition.
Right.
So, you know, if you're dealing with a savvy realtor and you've been on the market 200 days, you know, and you see that, I mean, you're dead in the water. Another interesting thing about these numbers, if you look at the actives, the 583 actives, you'll see the average list price per square foot at $509. Is that?
Yep.
$509. And the days on market, 127.
Right.
So we've got a little bit of a lag there.
Well, but we also have this outlier, right? We also have a $16 million listing. However, we had a $29 million listing here.
Well, that's just, yeah, those are the maxes. That's why I look at the average
Right.
there. And
Right.
so again, things much like everything else in the market here, people are getting a little bit ahead of themselves. So these are all between Gary's Mastermind, between the data that the MLS gives us. These are all things you've got to have in your back pocket, obviously, when you're speaking to a client at a listing appointment. And then, of course, you get a little bit further down into the actual property itself. And that's where all the, you know, bringing in the finishing and the architecture and the floors and all that good stuff.
So just to kind of reiterate what Greg was saying about what you'll get at Gary's, the numbers you'll get at Gary's Mastermind. They break it down between Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough counties. Some of you may be very familiar with these numbers, but what they did recently, just over the last few months, was it used to just be $1 million and above, right?
Yeah.
But now they've broken it down, so you get 1 to 1.5, 1.5 to 2, etc. And then they don't group it until it gets to over 5 million. So that's sort of in response to the fact that we've had such price increases in our market that we really needed to see, well, does it make sense to price this home at 1.3 or should we go 1.6?
Yeah.
What's selling in those, you know, could we go, you know, where is your home best?
Yeah.
Where's it most likely to sell statistically, right? Based on what has sold. So.
And just to add, they're also adding in Hernando and Manatee County.
Ah, okay.
Sarasota.
Okay. And so you can also in here, you know, kind of see the trends in terms of what price points are we seeing more inventory in each of the counties. So I couldn't find on the calendar when the next mastermind is. Did you see it?
I didn't see it.
I don't think there's one for December,
I
but
don't
there's one for January.
I didn't see it January. They're generally on Fridays.
Around the 15th or so.
Yeah, it's around the middle of the month.
Okay, so mid-month. So just check the Ubaldini training calendar and you'll get that info.
But this is, again, if you're dealing with someone, you know, you're at $1 million listing, this is all good stuff to learn, to have, just to sort of be encyclopedic about, to speak to, you know, just to kind of have it, bam, you're able to cite this stuff off, price per square foot, days on market. It's all good conversations.
Yeah. All right, so the other thing we want to see is, and this was interesting, I don't know why these screens are not changing. Kevin, if you're watching, we need you.
Kevin.
Is this Kevin? No. I don't know why the screens are not changing. Hi, Linda. I don't know why the screens are not changing for us in here, but as long as the people on Zoom can see it, I'm not going to mess with it. Maybe it's something I need to do here. Hang on. you know what? I'm gonna get out of that.
No.
I'm gonna get out of that. Okay, there we go. So now you can see, I just got out of the PowerPoint completely. Okay. So the second thing that we would talk about is locations of luxury listings and statistics about luxury listings. So this is the first time that I've ever done this. You know, I was working on it yesterday, and I was kind of surprised by what I found. So I'm going to break it down by county because there were quite a few, first of all. And if you were to guess which county in the last 90 days sold more luxury listings than any other, what would you guess?
Hillsborough.
All right, let's see if you're correct. All right, so we're going to go to solds in the last 90 days. And we're going to see, and what was fascinating to me was to see it on the map. Some of it was predictable and some of it was not. And I just thought it was interesting what showed up. Okay, so 534. Did I miss anything here? 700 plus. I'm just going with single family home. This is probably all, just about all missing. Well, no, I'm not. Let's do everything, right? Let's see it all. So when we look on here and we look on the map, it's going to tell me there's too many, probably. Yeah. So let's zoom in.
Can you share your screen, please?
Sorry, I thought I was doing that. So this is not the Zoom screen share.
Not.
Okay, hang on. Give me a second.
That's what we see.
Okay, there we go.
Yep, there we go.
All right, can you see that now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I thought my expectation was that we were going to see most of it in that South Tampa area. And we do, we see a lot of it there, but look how much, look how many other areas of Tampa have had 700,000.
Well, Odessa and Wesley Chapel was blown up there,
right,
with higher end homes, you know.
Yep.
That whole area out there, because there's land out there, there's development out there. So
yep,
Right.
it had to go somewhere, you know.
Look at South Tampa.
and I want you to see something. There's this little
Hollow
pocket.
Beach, yeah,
There's this little pocket down here.
because there's a lot of new construction down there.
A lot of new
on the
construction.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Waterfront.
waterfront.
And there's waterfront. That's right. And so, so you know, this was eye-opening for me because I saw some areas that I wouldn't have thought would have had some luxury properties. Okay, so there were what, 500 and something, 534. All right, so let's do Pasco and do the same thing. So Pasco is more spread out. I would expect to see stuff on the water, but obviously most of Pasco is not on the water. So we see it more kind of evenly spread out throughout the county.
Right across that 54 corridor.
Yep, yep. And then going up into, I didn't even know until, I don't know, earlier this year, I guess, that we had a San Antonio, Florida.
Dade City.
I've been to Dade City, but I didn't know
We
about
got
San
that Epperson
Antonio.
community up there with that
Yep.
crystal lagoon. That is gorgeous up there.
Yep,
Yeah.
and then
How
in
many were in
Pinellas,
Pasco? You didn't tell us.
it was 100 something, wasn't it?
You didn't tell us the amount.
Let's look at Pinellas. So Pasco had 142.
142.
And then if we go to Pinellas, $703. Shocking. I was really surprised because I thought Hillsborough would have won it hands down. And but that wasn't the case. So when you look at Pinellas,
A lot more waterfront.
no surprise that most of it's on the water, right?
Right.
You can see it better there.
Both sides.
Both sides, you get that strip up the middle where there's really not much. You get a little bit kind of in this, you know, more inland in that Seminole area. But most of it's along the beach. These are the, you know, a lot of these are tear downs now. People buying them for $1 million, tearing them down and building something new.
And you know what else? I think you're probably going to see more condos in Alice.
Yes, probably,
Mhm.
probably.
Especially along the beaches.
Right.
And then we come up here to Dunedin and we see it, you know, a little bit up here, obviously, you know, Landsbrook a little bit in East Lake Woodlands, along here, you know, a few places in Tarpon.
Oh, the prices have just exploded in the last year. I mean, I was showing condos in St. Pete and Tierra Verde on Sunday. Last year, those condos were selling for $350 and $400, and now they're selling above $600.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
yeah.
so let's just see. So 703 total. Let's see how many are condos. 155. 155. So those of you on Zoom and even in the class here, any other comments, questions, your experiences? Who's selling luxury right now?
I'm selling one this month.
Woo-hoo, first one, all right. Anybody on Zoom, you have some experiences you want to share?
I'm new. I don't have experiences, but I hope to come back with some great stories eventually. This is Nicolette over in Bel Air.
Okay, well, great. Thanks, Nicolette. Michael, you just got a 1.5 either under contract or sold, right? He might be up.
He's needed.
Sold. Woohoo!
Russo Group is signing on to today. Over $1 million. So.
Woo! Say that again.
Crusoe Group's signing to in a couple hours.
Oh, nice.
In the 1.4 to 2 million range.
So Michael and Linda, how are you finding, I know it's a little bit of a different class, but just quickly, how are you finding those listings?
Well, they found us. However, very difficult to price them.
We were talking about that in the beginning.
Very difficult. I have no comps. We're going by expectation of the market, limited market inventory, and seeing if it sticks.
Okay. Okay, and then we wanted to look at, you know, average days on our past clients moving up. That's awesome, Michael. Thank you. That's great. That's great. So we saw on that other slide that the average days on market for luxury, let's see, which one was it? Was still, the average days was, the cumulative days was 52, right? So you all know how to, or just about everybody, I'm assuming knows how to search for those kind of stats in here, right? So if you wanted to know how long these condos were on the market for, you could just click them all. This might be too many. It might not. Oh, no, it still gives me a quick CMA.
Just hit your stats button.
I know you showed me that on the phone the other
You
day.
can't see that, Jim.
Yeah.
You see the classroom.
Just go back to Matrix.
Can you see Matrix?
Yeah.
Can you see that?
No.
No. Okay, because I stopped the screen share. You know, there really needs to be a person just doing this. I'll just say.
Here we go.
Okay, it kind of just interrupts your thought flow, you know. Okay, so y'all know how to you know, check on this when you do a quick CMA, right?
What happens when you hit stat?
Go to stats. Let's check that out.
What happens when you do that? I've never messed with
That's a
stat.
great
either.
one.
Yeah, I've never messed with that.
Yeah, how do you use that?
Okay, Greg, I'm going to let you come over
Do
here.
you
because
use that, Karen?
I was messing around with it.
How do you?
Your screen is sharing right now.
So if you just click that stats button.
Oh, down at the bottom.
Yeah, you go to tabular.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it just gives you the bottom of the
I
CMA,
love
right?
that.
It gives you everything, but then you can also, if you go to
Oh,
charts,
that's great.
right above stats, if you go to charts, then you can customize. You can go back 5 years. You can get really some cool charts and some data about, you know, you can see year over year, 5 years ago. But here, now the 155 sold. I mean, you get a real good idea about the snapshot of the market. This is luxury. You know, I always look at the SP to LP, it's 98%. You know.
Right. So that's helpful when you have a buyer who says, well, let's offer, you know, 20% less. And you say, why do you think they would take that when in this market, everything is selling for at least 98%?
I always look at the average, and then even on the flip side, if you go to what's available, like when we looked at the earlier stat where out of the over 4,000 plus homes that sold, the sales price was $393 a square foot, and out of the 583 active, the list price per square foot was $509. So you can see, I mean, that's good data. You sit down in front of a client, you show them that, you know, and then you see the days on market are lagging, and everybody's, no, we want to list it here, we want to put it high. It's like, no, we don't want to be. And then you could print out some of these actives in 120 days, 110 days on market. And you don't want to be that guy. You know,
right.
That's why pricing it right. It doesn't matter what price point it is. You've got to price it right. Don't live by, you know, no, it's a higher price point. It's going to lag on the market longer. Not true.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm seeing that. That's really interesting. This has been eye-opening, getting some of these stats. I'll tell you that. Very interesting. Let me look at all of it. Okay, so who has some questions? Who else is selling luxury and has a question?
What do you find interesting about those stats?
It gives you a picture.
A quick snapshot.
It tells you a story.
So what's the storytelling?
You could say that the list price, the 98%, the list price to sale price, you got to price it correctly. And even at a higher price point where sometimes folks are, well, it takes a little bit longer to sell luxury.
Okay, I got that part of it. Are there more? Well, I think the answer to that as well is the information that you're sharing with the client is coming from the seller and us from stats. We're not making this up.
Yeah.
It's proof of how the market is, how it was. You can go back and say, here's how the market's shifting. Okay. And as Greg said, this is luxury. This is, you know, every other type of sale price, and it is different.
And you're not pulling out per se. You don't have, I mean, again, you still want to get a little bit granular as far as the particular house goes, but if you can show an overall snapshot,
right.
And you could break that down to waterfront. You could say, somebody wants to look at waterfront condos in Pinellas County. You could break that down and kind of give them a snapshot where it's not too much data, where their heads just like explode. It's like, no, here's where we're at, and you know, here's where we don't want to be, and you know, here's what this is not me. This is the data telling you what's going on.
Even in this market, you might just go out 30 days, so that you're not showing them data on 155 homes, but you're showing them, you know, 30 or 40 homes. And this is what it's done in the last 30 days.
That's why I just started.
Because the market's changing, you know, so rapidly that it's probably better to, you know, narrow that down. You know, then they will get a truer picture of like exactly what's going on.
Well, and that's why we just did it on the broad scale, so like Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough. But of course, you're going to get very granular depending on who you're talking to. You're talking condos, waterfront condos, lake properties, whatever it may be, and you can manipulate the data. I mean, not manipulate it, but you know, you can have the data show specific to what that client's looking for, and just show them, hey, you know, here's days on market. We can't, you know, we're not stealing anything. Or if we overprice it, if you're representing a seller, if we overprice it, we don't want to end up like this person, you know, 150 days on market, and then we're dead in the water.
I think it's easier with those properties than it is like estate properties where there's a lot of land involved. Because I've got a property under contract in Waimama. I've never been to Waimama until then, you know, I know where it was, but it's, you know, there's big estates out there, you know, with lots of land, and that land has a lot of value because there's lots of development out there too, you know, and so then you've got to look at those comps too.
Or maybe you're going further out, maybe you're going further back in time, or ultimately maybe you're sort of, okay, I'm only 2 acres, this one's 5 acres. What's that cost? You're backing out. So there's a lot more to tell.
So there's another place on here, the stats. You know, Greg mentioned the historic, kind of seeing what the trends are. I think Linda may mention what the trends are. If you go here into stats, and I didn't know about this until Greg and I had a conversation last week or the other day, you can go in and look by year or any one of these values. So if we look back 5 years, over the last 5 years or 6 years, we can look at any one of these statistics, right? So if we look at you know, list price, sale price ratio, and then secondary statistic, we look at, well, what was the, you know, average cumulative days on market by year for residential properties in Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough, priced at 700 and above from 2015 until today. It's going to generate a chart that's going to, whoops.
It just said 2015.
You gotta go 2015
Whoops,
to
past, sorry, I hit the wrong one, for the past 5 years,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's gonna show us that, oh, look, the price has gone up, but the average days on market has gone
Go
down.
down further, if you go down, you should be able to.
Strange.
On the left-hand side.
You have more experience.
You
with
can do
this
it as
than
a
I do.
chart. I mean, you can do it as data as well. Oh, over here, on the right hand
Oh,
side.
yeah,
just
here you
press
go.
data,
There you go.
And go break it.
Yeah, that's
Right.
great.
And I've dealt with, the reason I have an office in Miami, and for whatever reason, when I first got into real estate and to luxury properties, my Canadian folks, they wanted the 5-year historical. For whatever reason, they wanted to see what things were doing,
Right.
and they're smart people, right? Just, we present the data, here's the data. So that was just so nice and easy.
And you want to talk about this one, right? Let's pull that Miller
Oh.
Samuel.
That's
Here, let me pull it up. Can you guys still see my screen? Yes. Okay. What is it?
Miller Samuel.
And I think you have to keep in mind ranges, you know, 700 to 1 million.
Oh, yeah.
Million to 1.5.
You gotta
So
be careful.
different.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful in using some of these numbers.
Like 5 to, I would say 5 to 1 million is too rough. I
Yeah,
go 255.
that's
and
right.
7, like well, in this market, it's luxury, 700 and above. In Miami, it's 1 million and above.
Right.
So you've got to be careful when you're grouping things together.
One last thing we're doing here, Brian, and then we're going to give you the floor. So, Greg, you wanted to talk about this particular site. This is millersamuel.com.
These are just, I came across these people about 10 years ago. They're based out of New York City. They're appraisers. They actually now do our area, Pinellas, Hillsborough.
So should we, under market reports, is that where that would be?
Yeah, if you clicked on the market report, it's just somewhere I go. It's got, there's great data here. Just go down, see you've got, go to Florida.
So my neck of the woods.
Good idea, there we go. Now,
Pinellas, there we go.
if you download it, and it's just, and he comes out with these quarterly.
It's great.
And I mean, it's super, and they are affiliated with Douglas Elliman, but doesn't matter.
Right.
Data's data.
I mean, see, Pinellas
Right.
County, look, newly signed contracts go up a little bit. For example, for single families fell year over year each month since May as new listings fell sharply over the past 3 months. Newly signed contracts of condos slipped annually since July as supply was severely limited by substantially larger declines in new listings over the same period. So you're getting a lot of data, and I've taken these charts and these reports and put them together for people who, again, know your client. I mean, some people I've dealt with, they love this stuff.
Right.
So it's clearly showing us that in Pinellas County, more homes have sold 600 and above in November of 2021 than they did in November of 20. Right? Over that period of time, between November and November, that we've seen an increase in homes in those price ranges in Pinellas County.
Yep. And it
So
jumps.
More people can qualify for it.
But you see it jumps too, then it goes 800 to 9 to 999 seems to go less, and then above 1 million it picks up. Obviously, there's more.
Right.
Above 1 million, but
That's
Right.
a great report.
So there's a lot of good stuff here.
That right there was worth my drive.
Ah.
Other than a CTM.
So that's the millersamuel.com. That's some good information there, Greg. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop my share and we're going to introduce Brian P. Forrester. He's going to talk about jumbo loans, getting loans at 700 and above.
I am.
He is. And so I'm going to be taking notes on there as well because I know things have changed recently and there's some new information, some new data, and new ways to get those loans. So,
Thank you.
okay, you got it.
So, good afternoon.
Hi.
Freaking Wednesday.
Brian is with Van Dyke Mortgage, I failed to say. I assume that everybody knows that.
I think I know all these people. Is there people online?
Well, a few people online. You have a couple people online.
So here's a couple things to take away with jumbo loans. We'll kind of start at the top. So they are way different, right? Obviously than what we do. When you hear conventional loans, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, those guys, they handle everything the $622,000 and under, right? Above that, it's the Wild West. Right? There's no governing body, if you will. There's no one who sets out standardized guidelines and says, hey, follow these. Because the money comes from the bank itself, right? Like as a direct lender, I get my money from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But when I do my jumbo loans, it's me, right? I'm going to source my own money. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. So when I do that, what do I get to do? Make the rules, yeah. Right? So that's why you're not going to see uniformity in the jumbo world. When you go lender to lender, some will do 10% down, some will do 20. As you go higher in loan amounts, they'll require 25, 35. Like I'll give for instance, I know Sun Trust or Truist now will go to 2 million, but you got to put 35% down. We know PenFed, depending on federal credit, you can go up to 5 million and put down 20%. Right? So there, everyone does it differently. Okay.
And Brian, what was the maximum on the conventional that you said again? Because it just changed.
622,700, if I recall.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know. I just always look it up when somebody calls me. Google is great. I use Google. It's kind of like, so it's like portfolio, where I equate it to, it's like portfolio loans, right? Everyone makes their own rules as you go. And so it's about the borrower. We find that a lot of high net worth people, their credit sometimes is light, right? There's not a lot on there. So what they end up being essentially are full, what we call manually underwritten loans, meaning it's full doc. There's no appraisal waiver, no doc waiver. You know, with self-employed, I can get away with a 1-year tax return instead of 2. None of that. I mean, I have to see everything. Okay? I want all tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs. You own a business, you own other property. I got to have it all. And there's nothing you can get away with. So we're going to manually underwrite that. So it takes a little bit longer. Right? So it's going to be a full 30 to 35 days from the minute we say go to close. So when I talk about appraisals, right, there's no appraisal waivers. Depending on the loan amount and how high you're going, you'll need 2 appraisals, and I've had one where we need 3. Okay? Because of the lack of comparables. Right? It's not a high volume market. Right? So they're going to expand what they allow.
Yeah, I just had one on a 1.4 where one appraisal, and I was surprised to see that.
Yeah. If they're comfortable with it, then they will need it. Again, it comes down to that person, that deal, and that because they make the rules. I'm okay with that. I've had things I've seen. I'm like, over here you beat me up, but over here you let them go through with nothing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's crazy. So 750 is kind of the average what I would put for an appraisal in that price range. I've got one coming up at 2.4, and I'm a little nervous about what that's going to be. You know, I've seen it at 1,000 at that high because it's just more work for them. If you go back further and wider out, 10 miles, 15 miles, whatever it may be, to get that. Because, appraisers love homogeneous properties. Right? Oh, it'll look the same, smell the same, be the same. That market's not.
I would say too, just to add on, I would please make sure you're meeting the appraiser out there.
Yeah.
Please, I do it on every property, but please on luxury properties, meet them out there. Don't talk price. Meet them with a nice little sheet of upgrades and things like that, and smile and people.
And it's funny. You asked me for an appraiser besides Dean Davies, since he's no longer helping us.
Yeah.
Like Seth talked about that as class. He wants to help because he knows that's going to be a tougher market to get through.
Absolutely.
He wants that. Where do you see it? Good, so he'll take it. He may not be seeing it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we want. Credit score. What I find is, traditionally speaking, these programs are credit score and down payment driven and reserves. Right, money I have in the bank after closing. What I find is the less I put down, And the lower my credit score, I want more money in the bank, reserves. Okay? Everyone does a little differently, but one of the big things I always ask is, let's talk about what you have in the bank that you're not going to use for the down payment plus stuff. Retirement accounts, cash accounts, whatever it may be, because that's a big factor in my world. Okay? That solves a lot of bills. Okay, 680 is the minimum credit score for most. If they do not mess with that, no exceptions. And and for the loans that we do with 10% down, there's no mortgage insurance, so that whole thing is out the door. So I don't have to mess with that. Okay, because again, that's a whole totally separate market. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so typically you only get your menu of 15 and 30-year fix, right? There are some ARMs out there traditionally. In the past, ARMs were cheaper. But right now, we just loaded up a 30-year fix on a $1.9 million, 20% down. It was 2.875, paying no points, no nothing.
You've probably seen a lot more of that now too, because folks are just leveraging cheap money, no matter how much.
Way cheap.
Yeah.
I can't get that. Well, I can almost get that on a conventional loan, but on a 20% down,
yeah,
that's awesome. I'll take that all day long. So I did have a flyer, but it's already changed. It says up to 3 million. We'll go up to 5 million with 25% down. And we meet again next month, and it'll be different.
Yeah.
It's just who's willing to accept that risk, right? And it's case by case, which is why, traditionally speaking, we try to pre-underwrite those. So if you've got someone, and they'll all tell you they're great, well, sometimes they're not, because if they want to put 10% down, we got to look at the reserves and prepare for this, and will they take that? And trust. What I'm going through now is I've got one where there's trust for the assets and trust for the real estate that they already own that's income producing. We got to see the whole trust and approve the trust itself. Yeah. And typically speaking, they're okay with that. It's not their first rodeo. They know that. You'll get the first time buyer, in that range. So, I don't, see that. You want, $1.5 million? Yes, you do. So, and it's the whole thing. It just has to be underwritten and approved. And usually they're fine. It's the revocable trust that we're okay with, the ones that are limited. Like that one now where it's not, it's irrevocable, if I remember correctly. He doesn't have any, he can't get to the money if he needs it, so we can't use that. All those assets we have to set aside. So these are things that we have to think about ahead of time to clear, because if I need, so for this one, I need 24 months of payment in the bank. Well, when the payment's $10,412, that's a lot of money in the bank. Right? If I can't use that trust that they think that I should be able to, where are we going to find it? Gifts are allowed for this, from time to time, depending on which bank will allow it. We'll do second homes as well. Okay. Investment properties comes and goes. Right now, I don't think I have a source for that yet for investment properties in this range.
How about VA loans?
VA loans, yeah. So there officially is no limit if you have all of your. I didn't understand that. Neither do I. So with VA loans, if you have your entitlement, there's no limit. So Van Dyke, we've done one at 1.8 million, 1.5, but it doesn't matter. Where you lose that is if somebody had a claim at a short sale or foreclosure and there's a claim on their eligibility, then it's just what's left. And their rates are just as good. Yeah. The only time I appreciate those in that range, besides the no down payment, I think some people still want to put money down. Well, sometimes it may not make sense to go VA. It just depends. Right. Everyone's different. Any questions so far?
Yeah, so basically then if somebody is going to get a loan, let's say for a $2 million property, and they approach you, it would be the same process for you, where you hear how much money they have for down payment, you hear what their goals are, what their assets are, same kind of process. and then you find the best loan for them, right? You find the best bank for them, basically.
Correct. Yeah, it's the full consultation. Yeah. What do you want to accomplish? Where do you want to be? You know, and we reverse engineer those numbers. Right. And then I kind of have that discussion with them about, okay, listen, so let's talk about reserves. You know, where do you have it? Is it in a trust? So I give them that whole what to expect, because again, this is their first time. They're not expecting that. If they've been through a few, they get it, right? For the documentation requirements. But other than that, it runs just like a regular, you know, conventional run-of-the-mill loan. You know, there are 35 days underwriting. Because if I need 2 appraisals, you may need that extra 5 days.
How many banks do you have that you can go to for?
Right now, I have 4, and pretty much covers me top to bottom. And it depends on what I want to accomplish with that borrower. I'm going to put them at the, you know, the right one that fits that scenario. You know, because anything over, I think it's 2 million is called a super jumbo. Why they call it that? But we have lenders for that, and you got lenders for this. Okay.
What about new construction?
Yeah. So we're doing the end loan, yes.
Okay.
If you got the end loan, the construction, the perm loan.
No, say a condo, for example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say that again, like on a new build construction, residential, 800,000. Can they do VA loan through? Would they do that typically through the builder, or would they do that through you because you get them a better rate, or how does that work?
So yeah, so the new construction, if we're doing the end loan, so once they get the CO and we're going to close, we're going to do the loan right there. Yeah, we compete with the builders and whatnot. Sometimes they give people money, sometimes they don't. So it's the same thing. There's more paperwork involved on a new construction, you know, the end loan, because with the VA, oh boy, there's a lot more paperwork. But it's still just like a regular loan, essentially.
Brian, for condos on a jumbo loan, are there some of the same restrictions, require the same questionnaire and same restrictions on ownership and?
So let me talk about this. All loans for primary and second home condo, I don't look at their concentration of investors.
What about reserves?
Yes, but other than that, yes, the typical reserves, lawsuits, delinquency.
But say on a new condo,
insurance.
If they're not going to hold, if the builder's not holding anything.
So if it's a new build, that gets a little dicey because does the builder still have the HOA? Has he turned it over? Yeah. Right. Yeah. So there's a little nitpicky stuff there. Depends on how many have been sold. That's where the percentage is. How many have been sold more than 50? Yeah. Right. You know, now we're starting to open it up a little bit.
But go back just a second. So you were saying that for a condo, let's say a $1.5 million condo, you're not looking at how many are owned by investors, how many are occupied by? For
an owner-occupied condo in a second home.
Okay.
And only investment property condos do we care. Which, you know, and please no condo tells. Please. That's a whole separate class. We're doing a class on that next month. Well, non-QM portfolio, non-QM stuff, you know, with condo tells and non-wardable condos. Like now, I can do land lease and then top of the world. I just backed into that one by accident. However, the minimum loan amount is $125,000. Yeah. So that's going to knock out a big chunk of it.
Okay, we've got about 2 more minutes for questions for Brian. Anybody else have anything they want to ask or anything else you want to share?
Will there be anything on here? Let people talk.
What I'm hearing, Brian, is when we have a client at that level, we should be talking to you as the lender, asking the questions so that we don't set them up for failure.
Correct, because what's going to work at one place or in their previous history may not work now, or vice versa, where they've been turned down. All of a sudden, they may work over here because we have a workaround.
Right.
You know, a way to put them together.
Okay, so we answered some of this before. Okay. Yeah. Excellent, Brian. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for enlightening us with some great information. We appreciate that very much. And we'll see you again, I know for sure, pretty soon. And I just want to share with you guys, I promised I would I would let you know about that YouTube channel. So here it is. And we have 3 more luxury classes coming up in our 6-class series. These are the dates: January 20th, February 17th, and March 16th, 1 to 2:30 generally, give or take.
And look forward to out in the field in January.
Oh yeah, we're doing our out in the field on, what's that date?
Coming soon.
Keep an eye out on our Facebook page for the date and time. We're going to be doing a field expedition, a field trip to a granite countertop company. And so we're going to learn all about the difference between granite and quartz, and we're going to just learn a ton about how they do what they do, which of course you're going to find that in higher end homes. And so it'll be an opportunity. January 26th, and it's going to be at the Tarpon Springs Granite Company, I think it's called, if I'm not mistaken. And so we're going to meet here, and then
redoing my
people
kitchen,
will be
Tarpon Marble.
Marble.
Yeah.
And so we will be heading from here to carpool, or you can meet us there. We prefer that you meet here to
10:30.
So
10:30.
So we look forward to seeing you then. If you guys have any questions, speak up.
Thank you so much for this. Great information. I think if we all walk away with one thing, it was worth our time, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Appreciate you all today.